Coming to you live from the Coaches Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill at Celebration Point. This is MotivationU the Podcast. Welcome back to MotivationU the Podcast. I'm so excited about today's program. Coming up in about 10, 12 minutes, we have Carey and Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law, who will come in and share some of their unique and wonderful ideas on leadership. And we'll get to talk about a lot of things. Today is Jeffrey's birthday, so we're going to do some celebrating too. Maybe we'll get him to tell a little bit about that Tom Petty story. Yes, he was Tom Petty's first an attorney, and we'll try to sneak some of that out of him if we can. So this show, when I first started this show, this was the day that I looked forward to. I really did. I look forward to having Carey and Jeffrey in here to talk about the dynamics of a father-son partnership and relationship and how we share that leadership. That is something that we're going to get into today. But on the other side of the fence, leadership is becoming like a real interesting subject these days. You know, it's a noun, it's a verb, it can be an adjective, I guess. It's overstated, it's understated. And what I look to do on this program are to find those individuals, those next door neighbors that are exerting leadership skills, are being that leader that we can take and share with other people so that we can improve. It doesn't have to be that individual that is at the top of a global company. It can be that person next door. It can be a mom that's running a household. It can be so many different things that we want to share those ideas. What are the principles that you are utilizing to make that world better? You know, leadership offers some extremely unique opportunities. Yes, it offers the opportunity that some people think to be the boss, you know, or to make more money. And that's not, those aren't the things that make leadership unique. You can be the boss in a lot of different areas and not be a strong leader. You can make more money in many different industries, make a lot more money and still not be that leader. But what I look at leadership is that unique opportunity to change somebody's life. And in return you can change yours, but to change somebody's life. To make that new employee really be able to enjoy what they're doing. When you coach somebody on leadership and they come back and they tell you, hey, I got some positive feedback from my staff today. I said, what did they say? Well, they said that I'm the type of person they really love working for. Wow. I mean, that is that unique opportunity, that first-time person coming into a job that you make them want to make your industry their career. You know, leadership also can be that 3 a.m. phone call. I've had that. That 3 a.m. phone call on April 11th back in the early 1990s when my news director had an accident. And I get a call from him as his single phone call, and I'm thinking to myself, like, why are you calling me from the jail? You know, you were out on a news story. Then you hang up the phone, and 5 minutes later, the judge that you sit on a few boards with calls you and says, why is your news director not being talking to me, What's going on here? He doesn't even want to share any personal information. You hang up that call, and then the news director's wife calls you and says, what's going on? He doesn't even want to take my calls. That's part of being a news director. It's part of being a leader, is trying to figure out those things that are going on. Those 4 o'clock in the morning phone calls when your operations manager says to you, hey, your top salesperson has just been arrested. What for? I guess when he was down in Orlando, he went through a sun pass and didn't pay the ticket. And now they've come back and they got a warrant from him. How did they get him? They set up one of those DUI checks, and they saw that he had an outstanding ticket in Florida, and they arrested him. Those are the calls you get in leadership that people don't talk about. We talk about things that are like being tough. Remember back in the 80s and the 70s, you had to be a tough leader. Now it's collaboration. Now it's helping people be better, bringing two sides together. You don't have to instill your harshness on somebody else. You don't have to instill that fear into your employees. It's, hey, we're one team. How do we work together? And those are the things we want to uncover. I saw an incredible video this morning. If you find it online, it's a little girl trying to jump. She's at a gym, and she's trying to jump onto one of those large stacks of mats where you stand still and you jump up and you land. And it's about 30, 35 seconds long. And she fails, and she fails, and she fails, and she fails. And she keeps trying over and over again. And then the triumphant jump at the end when she makes it and her coach and her celebrate. Unfortunately, too many people in old leadership would have given up on her after about the third or fourth jump. That's the way we used to lead people. If you didn't get the job done right in a little while, boom, you were out. Hey, let's try something. Let's lower the bar. Put somebody else in here. But this coach was about positivity and coaching that individual to a positive end and helping them see that they can do that. That's why she was able to go over and over and over again and then feel that triumphant victory at the end. So that's what we want to look at. Coaching and leadership, they're unique. We've heard some outstanding stories here. I mean, when we think about this facility, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill is like an incredible place. And it will become, already is, the minute it opened, an iconic place in this area because of the name and the man that walks these halls and the impact that he had on football. I mean, you think of the Heisman Trophy and national championships, that is this facility. But it's not just that. It's more than that. It's the farm-to-table food. It's the ambiance that you get in here. It is everything that happens. And why do I mention that? Because that's part of leadership. It's not just the person that walks around and says, hey, look who I am, which he never does. Look who I am. That's not what leadership is. And too many people think that that's leadership. They think it's an executive sitting back with a cocktail and a cigar and just enjoying life. But it's setting a tone for your company, your organization, your life, your children, your family's life, the people that surround you. It's lifting other people up every day when you are at the lowest of your lows. That's leadership. And those are the unique opportunities that leadership offers. Some of the things that we teach in Dale Carnegie are built upon building confidence, building your unique interpersonal skills, your communication, but it's also the foundation to leadership and managing stress and worry. And when I speak of that, I have to share with you, we do have a class coming up September 21st, and you can go to jacksonville.dalecarnegie.com to sign up. Love to have you. It's right here at Hotel Indigo at Celebration Point, 6 to 9:30 in the evening. Please join us. It's going to be an awesome, we have some incredible people in that class already. Going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to get into a lot of leadership here with the Meldons today. We're going to talk about some of these things. I'll try to challenge them, and you can watch us live on Facebook. You can watch us on YouTube. You can hear us on 39 different platforms. Wherever you like to go to get your podcasts, that's where you can go. We have Apple Podcasts, we have Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, iHeartRadio, this, that, the other thing. All 39 of them. You can find that there, and we'll share those leadership ideas. Because when we get into it, it really is an interpersonal action with other people and helping people achieve their dreams that they never, ever thought they could achieve. I mean, think about that. That's your responsibility as a leader. Now, when some people hear that, they don't want to accept that responsibility, and that's okay. We need a lot of individuals that support leadership and that understand leadership, but don't ever want to be in a leadership role. That's okay too. Yet if you accept that role, know that it comes with those 3 a.m. calls. It comes with the 4 o'clock in the morning calls. It comes with the meeting with the board of directors when your budgets are a little bit out of whack. It comes with the accolades, yes. It comes with the great things, but it also comes with the individual that has a problem with daycare because something happened in their world that they're challenged, and all of a sudden they're a single dad. And how do they keep their job going? My solution at that time was to turn one of our office rooms into a daycare center, hire a couple of our part-time individuals and a couple of our full-time people to alternate to come in at 4:30 in the morning to be a nanny. That little girl just started Valdosta State University. Leadership. You know, it's those things that you do to think outside the box to make things different. So it's not just sitting back and having your name on that brass plate saying, oh, look, CEO. No, it's rolling up your sleeves. It's getting to know your team. It's collaborating with other people. It's setting a path for individuals to succeed. And that's what leadership's all about. And when we come back after this short break, we'll be joined by Carey and Jeffrey Meldon of Meldon Law. I can't tell you that we're going to sing happy birthday. I don't know if our engineer, Evan Miller, has a good voice, but I don't have a good enough voice to sing happy birthday to Jeffrey. But we are going to celebrate his birthday, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Join you back here in about 2 minutes on MotivationU the Podcast.
We still hear it. The sound of victory. The joy of being part of something great. And while things may not be the same right now, we haven't gone anywhere. If you bleed orange and blue, then Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Hello, Bob Ganzak for the Dale Carnegie course. Because of the great strength that we've had in the last couple of classes here, we are having another Dale Carnegie class starting September 21st, Tuesday night, the 21st, from 6 until 9:30 at Hotel Indigo. It's one of those things that's going to change your life. It's going to really give you the tools where you can improve at business, in your relationships, just in your love of life. So you will be able to sign up at jacksonville.dalecarnegie.com. Find courses. Find the one that is for September 21st in Gainesville. Hotel Indigo, 6 to 9:30. 8 weeks in a row. Incredible energy, atmosphere. You'll love it. Sign up today for the Dale Carnegie class. Thank you.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Welcome back to MotivationU the Podcast from Coach's Podcast Room. Here at the Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Look, I've got two gentlemen that I absolutely love. These guys. I mean, I've spent a lot of time sharing ideas and thoughts. I've been on your show a couple of times. I think I've been on there 2 or 3. So
yeah.
I got to get on there again. I got to start moving
You're
that
actually in the lead. There's only 2 other people that have been on twice. So
Alex Marvez, and he was on once with me, and
Reverend Anderson was on
Reverend
twice.
Anderson. Yeah.
Oh, and I think Dr. Pete Indelicato was on
Awesome,
twice. So
awesome. This is Jeffrey Meldon Carey Meldon from Meldon Law, the Gator brand Meldon Law firm, which I absolutely love. And you are a running encyclopedia, Jeffrey, of football games. When I listened to your podcast on Tuesday, I mean, I was absolutely floored with the way that you were able to recall the trip that the two of you made to Texas A&M and everything else. What is it about? How did you get so passionate about the Gator brand?
Well, it's fun. Number one. I mean, we live in Florida. The Gator brand is the number one brand in Florida when it comes to football. So it's very easy to get passionate about the Gators. And we also have some great friends that are lifelong Gators. And we've turned it into a party. So for Carey, and Carey, you could talk about it. You were born and raised a Gator.
Yeah, listen, it's a really special relationship to Gainesville. I've had over 30 personal ticket requests for this football game because we're on the billboards and the signs, and we're lucky enough to be associated with the Gators. So now everyone thinks I'm the Gator ticket manager instead of the law firm. But it's an honor and a privilege to be able to have that opportunity to go to the games with your friends, to tailgate, to experience that emotion that you can't replicate other than being in the stadium and watching your team take it to the field. So it's definitely an emotional attachment for me and Jeffrey. My father, who's turned 77 today, so it's his birthday.
So that's right, party time.
Time.
I was glad that they invited me to the party. I love this.
He's been taking me to games since the 80s, and so I grew up, blanketed by the Gator legends and by just the mystique of the swamp and Steve Spurrier and Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and everything else. And so for us, it's not just a a sport. It's a lifestyle.
You mentioned about the tickets, and on your show yesterday, you talked about having 102 tickets to the game this weekend, and it's kind of like in a leadership thing, Carey, is that if you didn't have, people are hitting you up for tickets all the time.
I love it.
That can become a challenge.
Yeah.
But think about being on the other side of the fence,
Yeah.
where you don't have any, and nobody's hitting you up for those tickets. So leadership falls in that area too. Sometimes I want to be the leader. I want to be the leader. I want to be the boss. And then when you get there and you feel how hot the frying pan is, and it starts scorching your britches, I mean, you're like, wow, did I eat more than I thought I should eat? So those things go both ways.
Absolutely.
And when I mentioned earlier in the show that when I first started this podcast, you two were the people I had in mind. I wanted to have this meeting so we could find out for our audience what the dynamics of father-son leadership and how you're navigating through treacherous waters to get to a beautiful place somewhere down the road. And that's kind of what happened. I went through it myself with my dad. Mm-hmm. I decided to leave the company. There was just too much there. I watched my brother-in-laws at the time go through it with their dad, and they decided to leave the company. You guys came together. What is it about the leadership style, Jeffrey, that you portray that attracts other people to want to work at Meldon Law?
Well, getting to the father-son relationship, it is a continuing challenge, and that it's hard work because when I was younger, I had different experience and ideas than I do now. Mm-hmm. And as you get older, you have the feeling as that you know best, right? And when you're younger, you think you know best.
Yeah. So every age you think you know best we're coming to that conclusion.
You and I talked about that at lunch yesterday. Yeah. I told you as a 40-year-old putting Wind FM on the air here in Gainesville. I mean, I thought I had all of the answers, right? Well, but it was really my 60-something old boss at the time, my partner, that I was smart enough to follow his lead. He gave me the opportunity to push some of my thoughts into it and put my own brand and impact on Wind FM. Yet, a lot of the things technologically and other things, I followed his lead on those things because I had to trust that extra 30 years of experience that he had that I didn't. So
it's obviously not the easiest thing to do in the world. Otherwise, everybody would do it, right? Nobody would ever leave any companies. For it to be done successfully, I think there has to be, obviously, there's concessions, there's sacrifices. There's changes in leadership, there's changes of ideas. I think there's got to be powerful people. You always hear about the son or the daughter taking over the business, and then and it goes in the gutter within a year or two because the person's not powerful enough, doesn't have the leadership style, or isn't competent enough to be able to move it in the direction that it needs to go, because everything changes. Yeah, nothing always stays the same. Yeah. And Dad, to his credit, has always not been a stubborn person. I mean, he actually encourages changes more. I'm probably the conservative one out of the two of us, because he's always focused on what are we doing today and tomorrow. And sometimes I'm sitting there thinking, well, let's figure out what we did yesterday so we can make sure we're managing all of our decisions. But at the end of the day, one of the major thought leaders that we follow, Gino Wickman, who wrote Traction by I think in maybe it was the early 2000s, but he studied some of the top companies in the world, and he developed this EOS, this entrepreneurial operating system method based upon years and years of study. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what he teaches is that you have to be able to measure results and then roll with the changes and make changes as you move forward. And Jeffrey's always been willing to do that, and that's been an incredible learning experience for me, is following his footsteps in terms of don't get entrenched, don't get focused on what you did, focus on what you can do.
Do you know when that book was written?
It probably 2007, 2009.
And look at the difference in leadership in 2021. That book was written pre-pandemic. Changes are taking place all the time. That's one of the things, when you take a look at somebody like John Maxwell, I mean, he gets all of these accolades, yet you can probably learn as much about leadership from Jeffrey Meldon and Carey Meldon as you can from John Maxwell. And my point is, things are changing so quickly. What changes have you seen in 50 years as far as a leadership role that you have, Jeffrey?
I think leadership principles are ageless. However, the tools that you have at your disposal to execute leadership are constantly changing. Mm-hmm. So, Julius Caesar, he had certain tools to use, right? And he did pretty good with what his tools were. And, what you have to do as a leader is to constantly innovate. It's like, in the early days of the internet, what was it? AOL was the big deal, then they kept sending you, CDs in the mail and stuff like that.
Do you remember WYSIWYG? What you see is what you get.
And during the dot-com bust of 2000, 2001, all these companies that everybody thought, it wasn't reasonable to think that they were going to all succeed. Yeah. And only 10% or so are still around today. So what is it that make leadership, one of my favorite books is How to Lead by David Rubenstein. And Rubenstein is a very, very famous author who knows a lot of very successful people. And he writes individual chapters about some of the greatest leaders that we've had. Oprah Winfrey, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You've got Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos. You've got Richard Branson, and then you go to leaders that have are household names, and you start to think, well, what common qualities do these leaders have?
Well, and that's part of what this show is about, is who is the next door neighbor? Who is the person, Jeffrey Meldon or Carey Meldon, that you've met in Gainesville, Florida, that when you cross paths with you, you go, man, that person's a great leader. The local person, that local individual that's making an impact on people's families in Alachua County.
Well, our good friend Freddie Wiebe is certainly up there. I mean, he's somebody that has made it happen not only for himself.
And what are those qualities that he has that he's able to impart on his team?
Well, look, there's some things in leadership that I really believe are critical. I think leadership is earned, and that means you put in the hard work. I think you have to set the example. You have to have continuous learning. You have to develop very good listening skills. You have to be passionate about what you're doing. Yeah. You have to be willing to be a teacher to everybody on the team. And you have to have vision. Mm-hmm. And the vision is, leading the team into the future by surrounding yourselves with people that are going to help you make excellent decisions.
So, Carey, who are some of those individuals that you've seen in your path down this road through Alachua County that, outside of your dad,
right.
outside of Freddie, individuals that you see that have those qualities that your dad talks about?
Well, it's different. Every industry has a different set of qualities. I mean, obviously, probably the person that we all know that we're sitting in his room is Steve Spurrier, who we've met a couple of times, and you can see that he's very self-assured, kind of knows who he is, knows what he's doing, and never misspeaks because he basically knows who he is. And that self-assurance, that centeredness that he is who he is and he's going to do what he's going to do, and people are either going to follow or they're not going to be able to keep up with him, and they're going to, that's kind of how I always felt Steve was so, and that's the kind of leadership style that has always appealed to me, is that there's clarity. We're moving, we're going. This is how we're going to go. You get on the bus, you jump off, but I know what I'm doing, and this is why I'm doing it, and these are the results on the table. And I think that's why, when we're working, we're expanding within our law firm, we don't have to reinvent the wheel necessarily, but using the techniques and the abilities of others that have been able to process a lot of information in an orderly, constructive fashion is something that really, really gets me going and excites me. So Steve obviously would be an easy example.
Let's touch on that for a second, because something that he mentioned when I had him on the show a few weeks ago was that, because my mindset with you, I mean, like when I was 11 years old, I mean, that's what really got me interested, being a kid up in Michigan in Florida football, was Steve Spurrier, in 1966, the Heisman Trophy year. And I just became a fan and followed him. And then to be sitting next to him like this on a show, interviewing him, was like incredible. And I had a lot of the same thoughts you did, that he's confident, he knows where he's going. Yet, when I asked him questions, the impact statement that he made was that when he was at Duke, that big turn in his vision was when he wanted to run a certain defense, and the players said, "Coach, why do we want to change what we're doing? We've been blitzing all game. Let's keep doing it." And he looked at him and he said, "Well, they're the ones out there playing. I'm going to go with their idea." He did. They won. It happened. And he said that was a huge change, that he had to get the input from his team. Now, that is not a 1960s, 70s type of leadership. As you know, I know, Carey wasn't back then. We were dictatorships back then. I mean, my first boss in radio smoked a pipe, had a little flask in his office, and told everybody what to do. Now it's collaboration. Now it's getting the input from other people. So that's kind of an odd thing with Coach.
Yeah, no, Steve Spurrier obviously was a revolutionary when it comes to coaching. I mean, what he knew is what he knew, which was offensive coaching, and that was his genius, was drawing up ball plays, whether it was on a board or thinking of it in his head or drawing it in the dirt or in the bathroom, wherever it was. But part of the intelligence is knowing what you don't know too. Right, and that we all think, you were saying earlier, we all think we have the answers to everything, and that we know it all, whether we're young or we're old. But having that insight to say, well, maybe I'm not necessarily 100% correct on defense. Let's try it that way. Like that to me is, shows intelligence and leadership as well.
So you mentioned vision. Okay, how do you connect your vision between a 77-year-old man today and a 43-year-old man today, so that your vision is together as you move forward? Because that was the thing my dad and I couldn't get eye to eye on. We had no vision towards that.
Carey and I are in a mastermind group, and part of their training is a coaching program, and we have meetings weekly, not only with Carey and myself, but with the leadership team. And we spent today talking about that very subject, a vision statement, core values, and, we each contribute our ideas, and we may have very different ideas. However, our ideas are designed towards moving the law firm forward, trying to accomplish the goals and be proud of what we accomplish, and proud that we're able to help people.
That's exactly right. I mean, we went through the vision statement, the mission statement, which is different. We'll talk about that at some point if you ever want to. And then our core values. But we're basing a lot of this on that book, Traction. We've been studying it for 3 or 4 years now. And one of the principles of Traction is that there can be many leaders, but there can only be one ultimate decision maker. And in our firm, it's Jeffrey. Jeffrey's the decision maker. He's the the founder and principal owner of the Meldon Law firm. And so when it comes down to a vision statement, it's really Jeffrey's vision at this point. Now the vision statement can change as things move forward, and that's the nature of all businesses. But the fact is, we're trying to set intermediate and long-term vision goals, so we know where we're working towards. And I think that is something that Dad's done a really good job of incorporating a leadership council to get different input as to what the vision will be, and then ultimately it's his final decision.
Do you find it difficult to take yourself out of the day-to-day and get a bigger picture at that dynamics that goes on within the leadership? I mean, because sometimes we get into the, I always think of what goes on at the bottom of the pile in a football game, right? When the ball's down there and you've got 8 200, 300-pound people on top of each other. What's going on that you can't see? And sometimes you got to step out of your leadership role to be able to take a objective look to see what's going on in your company. How do you guys do that?
Well, by constantly having meetings to think about ways to make things better. I was working on a statement today to simplify things, because when we were working on our vision statement, our core values, and all of that, and I came up with an idea of something really short, and really simple that would people would understand, and that was exceeding our clients' expectations from day one.
That's awesome. I like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And have you decided on that? That's you're going to.
I don't know.
Tweak it a little bit.
I just told somebody to write it down.
That's exactly what happened. But we also, we have different goals. But the the overwhelming philosophy of Meldon Law is that we want to provide incredible legal service to our clients, and we don't want that to ever be compromised, no matter how large we get. And we are growing. We're getting bigger, and we're incorporating new people and new offices, new locations. But providing the high quality legal service is the only reason I'm doing this. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. And that's the truth. And so sometimes it's hard to step outside of that box that we're in when we're looking at it from the inside out, because it can be overwhelming. I mean, the amount of people. I mean, Dad's had the office for 50 years. He's always paid people's checks, including mine. So he's always taking care of me and everybody else, and taking care of other people in the community via scholarship programs, giving back to veterans, to student athletes. And it's not contrived. It's all been sincere. It's gone over decades and decades and decades. And as we keep growing, we have more and more people that rely on us, including, and most importantly, our clients. So if we look at it like that, we can get frozen by that overwhelming weight of other people's need for us to be able to succeed and to produce. Because if we don't produce, then a lot of people that are relying on us aren't going to be able to survive.
And that's that old question all the time. What's more important, the clients or the employees? And I've heard that debated until the nth degree in many of my classes. Quite frankly, when you get a lot of different leadership people in a leadership class, and they start sharing these ideas and thoughts, and they get pretty loud with each other. But is it the client? Is it the employee? Is it the client, or is it the employee?
Well, I think the answer is it's all of the above. I mean,
that's the easy answer.
In a car, you need an engine and a transmission. You can't have one without the other, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like if you do not deliver exceptional experience for the client, then you're not going to be able to grow.
And if you don't grow your team, they won't be delivering that exceptional experience.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well said, Bob. Yeah.
What is your mindset in hiring? Both of you. What is your mind when so let's say you've shared with me before, you've gone from like 5 employees to near 30 now or something.
Yeah.
When you go to that next level, what is your mindset in bringing people in as a leader in the law industry?
Well, when I started out, I could only hire the people that I thought I could afford.
Okay.
And so I was always, for the first several years of practicing law, I was always worried about, making sure I could make payroll and I could only afford, a certain quality of people. And then all of a sudden, it improved, as far as finances, and I could, go from, a little more salary and be more selective. And now as we're continuing to grow, so what our goal in hiring is to hire only A-plus players, only A-plus team members. However, in order to do that, sometimes you have to build up to that point where you're able financially to do it.
Yeah. Okay. And your thoughts on this subject?
I echo exactly what he says. I mean, Jeffrey's spot on. He hung out his own shingles in the early 1970s and basically supported at least one or two other people for the entirety of his career. And so as he's gotten bigger, he's been able to support more and more people, which is a great responsibility. It's also a great honor, right? It's the old adage, pressure is privilege. And we're growing with more pressure. We have to make sure that we take care of other people. That's a privilege that's bestowed upon us to be able to follow through on that.
And it's not necessarily the stereotypical negative thought process that the jokes about attorneys have either. I mean, because that's the antithesis of some of the thoughts that people, when you hear those comedians on television and they make the jokes and they're all, that is not what they talk about of how you set out to help other people as your main impact. It is to your firm. Anybody that knows you know that you guys walk your talk to the nth degree. Yet it's not the norm in your industry that is the mental thought process of it. How do you combat that?
Well, I don't know if it is the norm or not. I mean, one of the things that Dad always taught me, I always call him Jeffrey, but I'll call him Dad for the purposes of the program today. But he's always taught me, don't worry.
It's a birthday boy.
Don't worry. Yeah, he's a birthday boy. And I'm glad you were born, Dad, because I wouldn't have been born otherwise. So there's a trickle-down effect there. But he's always said, don't worry about what other people are doing. Worry about what you're doing. And so you get rid of the drama, you get rid of the gossip. If you worry about yourself and you worry about what you're doing, then everything else will work out. And so I don't know what other law firms are doing or not doing, how they see themselves or what's important to them. And frankly, it doesn't matter to me. And I don't think it matters to him either. What it matters is what are we doing? And what is our reputation, and what is our ability to follow through on the promises that we make, which is to render our best professional legal services.
I find that really interesting. Talk to me about Tom Petty.
Well,
how did you get involved in that?
I moved to Gainesville in September of 1970, so I guess we're at year 51 here. And I had a good friend, Leon Kappelman, who was getting a graduate degree at the University of Florida, and I'm working up in Cleveland where I grew up, and he says, well, come on down and visit. So I came down and visited once, said, oh, this is kind of fun, and then I came down and visited a second time, and then I said, I'm moving down here. So came down, and I had graduated law school, but I hadn't taken the Florida bar. That process takes a while because you got to study for it, sign up for it to take it, then you take it, and then you got to wait several months to get the results. So I wound up spending a little over a year during that process immersing myself in the community. And we started a number of different ventures. We started out with an organic food co-op. We went into
organic food co-op in 1970.
1970.
Yeah, that's again thinking outside the box. Right?
And then we started an alternative learning community for kids who weren't succeeding in traditional public school setting. We started writing for a newspaper that had alternative viewpoints. We started getting involved with music production, and we ran into this young fella named Tom Petty who had a group called Mudcrutch. And together, the group of folks that I was collaborating with, we were called the candle people.
Candle people, okay.
Because we made candles and sold them for our income. And we did it over a open fire using, paraffin wax from, Gulf oil. And and we'd go to, the equivalent of Walmart, which I think was Kresge's or something like that back then, and getting colored crayons to put color to the white wax.
Ingenious.
It was really just a facade to meet the UF co-eds, all the girls. They'd sit on the lawns, and all the girls would come by and see the candles. I guess that was the way to entice women back in the day, right?
Now it's a puppy dog. You walk your dog around campus, I guess.
It worked. So anyhow, Tom Petty and our group, the Candle People, got together and put together the first Mud Crutch Festival, which was fashioned after Woodstock. And the idea was we were going to just, put a stage up and invite a bunch of bands to show up. And we had no money to finance it. So we went around and got contributions from everybody in the community, from, Riles Plumbing that provided the staging to, the Baskin-Robbins people that gave us their empty ice cream cans so that we could get donations at the door. We wound up getting, apples donated from Pick and Save, and we wound up putting this all together without any money, okay? And all of a sudden, everybody showed up. It was out in the woods behind Dub's steer room, and everybody all of a sudden showed up, and it was this huge success. A month later, we expanded it from 1 day to 3 days, and everybody brought their blankets,
tents
and
and everything.
tents and all of that, and more and more bands showed up. So those were called the Mud Crutch Festivals. And
that was your connection, your beginning of your connection with Tom Petty.
Yeah, and then I opened up my office and I said to Tom, hey, I passed the bar. I'm opening up an office. You need a lawyer and somebody to help you with your career. He said, sure. And so he and the rest of the band members, used to come down to the office, 1971 and 72, and hang out with us, and we tried to promote their career.
That is awesome. And it's that same foundation that you continue to live. You telling that story, I wasn't around here then. I mean, I wasn't. You weren't around here yet. You were not born yet at that time. But when you listen to your dad tell that story, Carey, you feel the same threads in your law firm today of that attitude and that we're going to make it, we're going to do this, we're going to grow, we're going to happen. That's your life. How do you lead into that?
Well, I mean, Jeffrey's always been a Rolling Stone, right? If you meet him, he's 1,000 miles a minute, and I get frustrated because I got to slow him down and say, let's focus on this, let's do this. And sometimes I'll get the attention, but sometimes I'll just keep rolling. So that's always been the way that he is that he's focused.
He's an 18-wheeler, that's for sure.
Yes, he's focused. He's focused on action, not inaction. Indecisiveness is weakness. That's something that we believe in, and that we're going to continue to keep the wheels in motion. Now, I grew up in a family of lawyers. I had my father and my mother went to law school. She didn't graduate, but my sister went to law school. My aunt, my uncle, my cousins, my grandfather. We probably had my other uncle. We probably had 10 or 12 lawyers in our family growing up. So for me, it was kind of a situation
predestined that tennis star was going to be an attorney.
Maybe I wanted to be something else, but we kind of fall back into what can we do, right? I have this incredible opportunity, but when I came out of law school, I went to the state attorney's office in Daytona for 4 years and was able to make some mistakes, try a lot of cases where people didn't know really who I was, which was nice because I didn't want to do it in Gainesville where it's still a very small town. And I still make mistakes, but hopefully less than I used to.
Those are those stepping stones to success, though.
Yeah, look, life is a journey, and it always changes your mindset, One of the things that, I was telling Dad on the way over here that, I always want him to be my father and love him as my father and always have fond memories, and that's part of the problem of working with families sometimes is that money's involved, and money is not a good thing for it to necessarily be involved, and the pressure of making decisions, because one of the major hurdles that I think any growing business has to make is what decisions are going to be the right decisions, and how are we going to deal with wrong decisions. And that is something that I always have struggled with, is making sure that I don't blame myself too much for making wrong decisions, because sometimes they will be made, but you've got to make decisions. And so in terms of my journey to Gainesville, I was lucky enough to be invited back to work for Dad in 2009, and now we're here with office locations in Fort Lauderdale, Ocala, Gainesville, and Jeffrey just signed a lease in Lake City, so Meldon Law will have 4 real office locations throughout the state of Florida. That's something I could not have imagined when I started in Meldon Law in 2009. So, what I've learned is sometimes you don't know it all, because you don't know what's going to be in front of you.
And you don't know what is the next path, and to surround yourself with good people too. I mean, good consultants, good partners. I mean, the two of you as a partnership is awesome. But the individuals that you have in your team too, how was that going through the pandemic? That's a big challenge. Everybody throws that around. But learning how you dealt with that once, shutdown time.
We were very lucky. We were in a mastermind group with a lot of very successful, forward-thinking people. And by meeting with them the first week of March when the pandemic started, and then we all got together again 3 months later in June. And they helped us have the courage to not only succeed, but to rapidly expand during COVID. And everybody around us was talking, hey man, this is the greatest opportunity of the last 25 years. Let's all double our budgets and spend more and expand our businesses, okay? And that was counterintuitive, in some ways, right? But
it is counterintuitive, because usually you want to restrict when the economy goes down, or at least you don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knew what was going to happen last March.
What was it like for your team, though? I mean, how did you deal with those individuals one-on-one?
Well, the first thing I did was we transformed the office to remote, and then we started having daily Zoom meetings so that I could talk to the team and give them the courage and the attitude to succeed. And what I told them is, I am making a promise to you today that nobody's going to miss a paycheck, and we're going to get through this and just keep focused in on delivering great service to our clients, and we will succeed. And that's how I started the month of March during the COVID
2020, March of 2020.
March of 2020.
And then we didn't, it's one of those things, it's like walking into a tunnel and not know how long it is. It's dark, it's cold, it's clammy.
Yeah.
Here we are entering this tunnel, and you don't know where the ending is. How did you deal with that? And how was it for you, to go through that period too?
Well, I was down in Fort Lauderdale prior to the pandemic, trying to get that office moving. So I had not been in Gainesville that much, every once in a while, but really for 2 or 3 years. So when I left to go down to Fort Lauderdale, I left. And then during the pandemic, we lost an attorney, and I ended up coming back every week. I went to the Carnegie course, which I would recommend to anybody out there if they want to have an incredible experience and meet leaders throughout North Central Florida, which I had the opportunity to meet some incredible, the next generation of the people who will be running Gainesville in the Dale Carnegie course. You should contact Bob Ganzak. I'm sure I'll give you the info. But as a person who's gone through the course, I can tell you without any hesitation, it's worth completing and making sure you put aside the time to really dedicate and make sure you attend it. Because I remember when I was doing it, I was in Fort Lauderdale. I drove up every Tuesday from Fort Lauderdale to Gainesville to attend this class. And it was probably the highlight of my 2020 year. And so I
Awesome.
really
Thank you for
appreciate
that.
Bob.
Thank
No,
you for that.
it's
I mean, and
truthful.
Chris has gone
Yeah.
through, other attorneys, Ian,
Yeah.
your
Yeah,
wife.
we have a lot of fans.
You're coming
Dad's
in.
next.
You're
Yeah.
next,
Yeah,
September 21st. You're
Yeah.
coming in.
Yeah, I'm going to be there September 21st. Originally,
So if you
I
want
was
to take it with Jeffrey, you have an opportunity. It's on record now.
no. So anyhow, no. I want to thank Bob for all the leadership skills that he's taught our team members, and I really appreciate that, and I thank you sincerely
Absolutely.
for
I
that.
appreciate that very much. I love working with the two of you. I mean, it's just such a fun time. My stepdaughter works at your office.
Yes,
but
Jordan.
she
She's
did
doing
that
great.
on her own.
Yeah.
I mean, I introduced you, but you know,
She's an
as-
all-star because she worked at Chick-fil-A, and anytime you can hire a Chick-fil-A former employee, you do
and a
it.
Publix person.
And a
She
Publix-
went from Publix to Chick-fil-A
It's a no-brainer.
to Meldon Law.
Yes, and she's been a great addition as well. We're lucky to have her. But, in terms of the leadership style, I just wanted to tell you, we were talking about bands. I know, Bob, you're a big fan of the boss, Bruce Springsteen, and he's always been the unquestioned leader of the E Street Band, and they've had an all-star cast of
Forever,
musicians.
yeah.
And then there's I like to think of maybe us, in my mind, as kind of the Grateful Dead, where you had, 3 or 4 leaders. I remember Jerry Garcia was known as a leader, but him and Bob Weir would always kind of push and pull
Back and
during their riffs. And that
Phil
was,
Lesh was kind of that.
he was
going
like,
on?
"What's going on?" But they would never know what they were going to play, and they would just kind of go and they would push and they would pull, and they were sometimes
Which became their
friction.
strength.
That became their strength because through that friction became amazing music. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. Most of the time, Jeffrey is the unquestioned leader of the firm and will be in the near future. And I like to think sometimes that could be a Bob Weir and push and pull.
I like that.
where we need, so Jerry Garcia
I like that
can
analogy.
do the
That's
riffs.
great.
Yeah.
That's good.
But
Okay, so we have 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go. You have a birthday celebration tonight. Where's it going to be held?
Oh, we're going across the way here to Prime,
Okay.
to Pearl and Prime.
Prime and Pearl.
Prime and Pearl. All right.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
it?
Tell
No,
me-
it's Pearl and Prime,
Is it
isn't
Pearl
it?
and Prime? What is it?
Prime
Prime
and
and
Pearl.
Pearl.
Prime and Pearl. Okay.
So
All right.
tell me about Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Visors upstairs. This is just like, for me, that was one of the best meals I've had in like ages is here. And as I was telling Andrew Johnstone, their general manager last week, when Chef Mark was talking about those shrimp and grits, I mean, the drool was just coming down my face. I just like, wow. What's your favorite dish here?
Dad, you go ahead.
Oh, so anyhow, they have an appetizer here. I'm trying to. I need to look at the menu, but
Okay.
I'll recall it. But it was absolutely incredible. Okay, and that I think I've tried 2 or 3 of the different dishes, and I will tell you, the restaurant's exceptional because of the preparation they put into bringing the food to you. It's farm to table. They're buying the highest quality foods. They have a great kitchen director who's preparing the food terrifically, and then they bring it to us in a very professional and exciting manner in this exceptional museum. So it's not any one thing, and when you get something on the table, everything that I've tasted is excellent. So it gets down to the same thing we do in business, which is, preparation and execution. So that's my thought on that. I want to mention something real quickly because we're at the end here, but I'm watching this series about how movies were made, and they take some of the great, it's on Netflix.
Okay.
And I got these insights because there was always tension between, the studio boss who had to okay the budget and
Yes.
approve the film and approve everything. I feel like I'm the studio boss, right? And that, the directors and the artists, they're all pushing for what's important to them. And then he goes, no, your budget's too high. You got to cut this. And by the way, you got to have it done, by, May 15th, because we're releasing this
Yeah.
from Memorial Day. And and then everybody's going, well, it can't be done perfectly by then. He said, well, it's going to be done one way or another. And then, and so.
You should see Dad when he's on set. Like, he literally is like a Tasmanian devil across the. We have a circular office, and he's running around. People know when he's coming, and you can hear the whoosh of the doors. But he's definitely the director, and he's telling this is what we need to do now, and here's there, and so Dad's definitely the director of the show.
I got to wrap this up here. It's been a pleasure. I know I forgot also to get questions. I promise you next week we'll have questions. I just wanted to talk to these two gentlemen so much today that I totally forgot that. Now, we're coming to you from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill here at Celebration Point, Coach's Podcast Room. Awesome place. And for my friend back there behind the screen, our producer, Evan Miller, I'm Bob Ganzak. This is MotivationU the Podcast.